When little as a child, I had this imagination that the people being displayed on the screen actually lived inside the television. That was my mind. As a child, we had a lot of fantasies and imagination. And the worst part is that it didn't even have any limitations attached to it. Now, if you know me very well, while sharing all my long tales, I would most times put in brief stories. And this particular story isn't owned by a Nigerian, and I even had to learn from it big time. Let's call her Sheila. Now, while Sheila was growing up, she always had this fantasy of being a witch. If you're very familiar with cartoons, they mostly glorify a lot of evil. And then growing up, you would want to be those things like mermaids, like witches, like all these cartoons, every which way, all this PJ Masks and all that, talking of the current. But if you're conversant with what we used to watch when little, you would understand better. That was the same case with Sheila. Sheila grew up with that mentality that she wanted to be a witch. Sheila is currently 16 years old. She wasn't the one that reached out to me directly, but someone sharing the same blood with her. As to learn, and as for our parents to also open their eyes to what children watch on a daily basis. Now, Sheila would always go online to browse things. She would browse crazy things, how to be a witch, how to be a this, spells, and magic, and all that. You know, they have phones. Of course, from primary school, secondary school, they would give them phones. Sheila would browse and browse and browse. One day she got unlucky. She had gotten into a site that began her doom. Now, this site initiated her without her knowing. She would have strange dreams, but she would not tell anybody. She's a child, of course. According to Sheila's mom, she said she would most times wake up to Sheila talking in her sleep. You know, normally as a mom, you would go to your children's room to check if they are okay and all that. Sheila would be asleep, but Sheila would be having a full-blown conversation with someone Sheila's mom could not see. This started when Sheila was around 10, 11 years old. So Sheila's mom didn't really take it much. She was like, okay, maybe stress or maybe too much cartoons and all that. You know, when you watch some certain things during the day, it might come in your head to play or maybe a recap of whatever happened that day. It's normal. Yes, scientifically. But she started to observe that Sheila became withdrawn in the sports, in the games, in interaction. She was paying close attention to Sheila. Now, let's go towards Sheila's part. When Sheila had gotten into that website, she would often recite the spells they would send to her through email. She made friends from that website. Wow. She was now so invested that finally she would now become a witch. Her mentality was that being a witch would give her powers maybe to skip school or maybe to make herself free as to be in different places at the same time. All this children imagination. To leave the cup with your powers and all that, telekinesis and blah, blah, blah. That was all Sheila was imagining. But Sheila did not know that she was giving room to entities to use her body. It got to a point. One day, now this is Sheila's part. Sheila woke up. Next to her was her own body. Sheila wasn't in her body, but something else was in her body.